All right, we told you about Donald Trump commenting today, Wisconsin, make America great again. I bet the closest he's come to tweeting a response to these latest corporate inversion rules. The president is slapping down now to make it more difficult for U.S. companies to relocate abroad and take advantage of lower tax rates elsewhere. Now we had Bernie Sanders being a bit more specific, saying that he loves these new rules to curb corporate tax dodges. The campaign putting out a statement. I'm pleased that the Treasury has announced new rules to block profitable American companies from gaming the system to dodge U.S. taxes. Charles Payne on that, a big Bernie Sanders supporter, a socialist here, but we love him just the same. Charles.
It's the Ben and Jerry's, I tell you, they got me. They hooked me.
They got you. What do you make of this? And the president is saying, I want to do this under big corporate tax reform, period. That never happened. So he's saying, well, I'll start doing this.
You know, it's a tough one. But again, if we don't get back to the original problem, which is the fact that it's so expensive to do business in this country, people want lower taxes. Everyone watching this show tries to find a way to lower their taxes. In fact, over the next couple of weeks, people will be breaking pencils trying to figure out how they can save money on their own individual taxes. So it stands to reason that corporate America would want the same thing. And that's the bigger issue. How do we get businesses to stay here? How do we grow businesses? And I think that's really probably even more problematic, Neil. As you know, we keep saying manufacturing went from 12,000 to almost half of that, you know, in the last 30, 40 years. How do we get businesses to even start here? We can't under the current tax regime.
What do you think of what they're doing now? They're going back 3 years. I don't want to get too arcane in the weeds here, but they're going back 3 years about the way you calculate going to set up shop abroad. In other words, they would disallow a lot of things that have been perfectly legal and allowed now, but they're doing it by, in this case, Treasury Department fiat. I'm told by lawyers they can do that.
That's scary
stuff. But it seems scary.
That is very, very scary. When they start to enact laws retroactively, yeah, it's like, whoa, you already...
Well, if you're Pfizer, would you go through with the Allergan deal, or would you think twice?
I think Pfizer is going to try to go through with it. They've crunched the numbers, and the money that they save...
And they must have expected this response.
Well, the president hinted at this, so they did. But the money that they save, and also the money that they can put into new R&D and all of those things, we're not talking about chump change here. It is a lot of money.
But as it stands now, Charles, it would be disallowed.
It would be. It would be. And again, you know, they'll try to fight it some sort of way. It's one of these things that are going... Listen, big tobacco...
What do you think of that practice, period? Tax rates
I would prefer
buying a smaller company, much smaller company, then we're going to domicile over there in Dublin and pay a tax rate that's a fraction of what we're paying.
I would prefer it didn't exist. I would prefer that companies didn't even think about it, that it wasn't even an option, because it was so great to be domiciled in this country that you weren't penalized for success. That's what I wish was the deal, is that, you know, instead of punishing companies for doing well, we de-incentivize them. And actually, in many instances, of course, they have no choice. At least they don't if they're worried about the bottom line. But I'm telling you, we may be in a point now where Republicans and Democrats start to say there's enough is enough with respect to the bottom line of corporations. I saw a lot of backlash against Ford moving this plant to Mexico today from Republicans, from so-called conservatives. And
Donald Trump leads the pack.
Right. So, you know, if you know, when Republicans start wondering where corporate greed is, and Democrats do, you start to really wonder. I mean, it's a worrisome problem. It really is.
You know, we're all patriots when all said and done, but it's not exactly a patriotic act to lose money hand over fist, right? It's not exactly a patriotic act to hurt your shareholders and to hurt the employees of your company if you continue on the course you're on.
Right. And ultimately, it wouldn't be a patriotic act to need a bailout. Now, Ford didn't need a bailout, but you know, we know there's been the sort of behaviors in the past where we can't have it both ways. We've got to think about this and think it through. It all gets back to the fact we've got the highest corporate tax rates. Every single year, President Obama layers on thousands and thousands of more regulations, more fees. Then there's things like particles in the air. We want to stop that. I mean, just the craziness of this particular administration and the war on business that they've launched has forced many companies to do what they don't want to do, or sit on the cash, try to wait it out.
What did you think of the way the president linked it with the Panama Papers scandal? The first victim, ISIS prime minister, who resigned.
Yeah, I knew it. I mean, as soon as the Panama Papers thing came out, you just knew this is going to be a springboard, because tax havens were a big deal, you know.
But I might be surprised, Charlie, but I don't know any from Ireland taking advantage of those corporate tax havens. I bet you we'll find very few, if any, from Ireland. In other words, if you are in a low tax haven, you don't need to find a low tax haven.
Sure, absolutely not. Yeah. But it's a pretty eclectic mix of names so far on there.
Yeah.
I think people should also realize that there's a criminal element to that as well.
Absolutely.
Some of that money has been linked to Russian gangs with underage kids. Some has been linked to Syria with the barrel bombings. Some of that was funded through that bank, through that offshore
it's like
entity.
the old Swiss banking days, right, where they wouldn't announce who these accounts are.
Yeah.
You know, but it is what it is. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Neil. You look great, man.
For everything.